Hello world, Nick here with video number 5. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about strings. You might notice I'm still in my public class adder. This doesn't really have anything to do with adding, neither did our last video, but I'm too lazy to make another project. If you want to keep a record of what we do in each video though, so you can look back over it, it might be worth it to go ahead and do that. So again, if you wanted to make your new project, you'd go to File, New, Java Project. But I'm just going to keep typing this stuff here because, why not? It's already here, it's already open. I don't want to waste your time showing you something every video that I've already shown you how to do. So in this video, we're going to talk about string. So why didn't we go over string in the last video? That's a good question, person. The reason we didn't go over string in the last video is because string is a special data type. It's not primitive. So what do I mean by that? Well, it means, in short, that you can do a lot of stuff with it that you couldn't do with the other data types. So let's look at an example. I'm going to give you a string, str, I'll call it, and it'll say, hello world, and all who inhabit it. So the first thing you're going to notice with this is that I put a capital S. With the rest of the data types, it was all lowercase, the name of the type and everything. But if we do that with string, we get an error. And don't worry about exactly why that happens. Just for now, you just got to know string has a big S. Anytime we want to make a string, we have to make it with a big S. If you make it with a little s, Eclipse is going to get mad at you. And you do not want Eclipse mad at you. So now we are going to do something with this. Something that we can't really do with any of the other data types that I've shown you so far. Because Eclipse is special, because string is special, because string is not a primitive data type, that means that it has associated methods, which you might remember that word from when I talked about the main method, and it's a similar idea. It has associated, we describe the method as a piece of code that does something. So string has associated pieces of code that do things. And we can take advantage of those because they're very helpful for some things. So let's say I want to make a program, and what the program does is it answers the question, what is the 8th character of a string? Well, there are a few ways you could do that. The first one is you could just go with your eyes and go count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th character is world. World is not a character. The 8th character is W. But we don't want to do that. We want to use computers to do that. That's what they're for. So let's store that 8th character. We don't know how we're going to get it yet, but let's call it 8th character equals. So how do we get this 8th character? What voodoo do we do to get there? Well, this is where something which is going to be very useful now and through the remainder of your programming career comes in, and that is the documentation. So if we go over to Google and you type in Java documentation, like I've done countless times, so Google knows, and just click on the first result. I'm going to put a link to this in the description, but it's pretty easy to get to. Then we get to this really scary looking page with a ton of things on it. Most of these words probably make no sense to the majority of people. A lot of them don't make sense to me. But what's important is in the bottom left corner over here, there's this section called classes, all classes, and down there we should be able to find string, because that's what string technically is. It's something called a class. And I know what you're thinking. But I thought a class is like adder. Adder is a class. How is string also a class? And they are actually the same sort of thing, but we'll get into that more later. For now, it makes more sense to just take it for what it is. But a lot of the stuff we're doing with string is stuff that you could do with another class that we made just as easily. Or not just as easily, you'd have to actually make it. But don't really get too worried about that now. Just know that this is technically a class. So on the top of this page, once we get here, it gives us a description of what string does, which is very nice of them. It tells us about how it works. It tells us about ways you can use it. It gives us a little example right there of how you can make a string. But then down here is the good stuff. These are all of the methods that are associated with the string. So let's say we want, well, let's just go back to our problem. We want to get the 8th character of our string. Well, there's this method right here called car at. And in parentheses, it tells us what to put into the method. So the way it works is, I'll just show you and it'll make sense. It was str.car at, just like it said. So you might notice the way that we call a method on a string, if we want to do any of these cool things, is we put the name of the string we want to do it on, then a period, and then we put the name of the method. So name of the variable, period, name of the method. And it looks like right here, the thing in parentheses, that's called the parameter for the method. So this is a thing that it wants us to give it, and it'll use it to do something. So in our case, it says index, and it gives us a little description here of what it does. It says it returns the car value at the specified index. So it gives us the character at the specified index. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's exactly what we want. We want the character at a specified index. So we see here that it wants an int index. So we want the 8th character. So the way we give that parameter to the function is just the way it looks here in the documentation. We put the name, and then we put the parameter in parentheses. So we want the 8th character, so let's put an 8 in there, and this statement does something. So we want to put a semicolon. And there we go. So what this should do is this should get the 8th character of our string, and it should store it inside of the car variable 8th character. Now let's see if that's what happens. Let's print 8th, no, without the quotes. We want to print 8th character. If we did put the quotes there, it would just print out the literal phrase 8th character, but that's not what we want. We want to print out what this variable is holding. So it's the moment of truth. Let's see what happens. Nothing. We get this O. So now let's look at our string. Let's see if that's right. So our first character is H, our second is E, third is L, fourth is L, fifth is O, sixth is comma, seventh is space, eighth is world, or W. I don't know why I keep thinking world is a character. So the 8th character we just got is W, but our program is telling us it's O. Don't worry, you did not break your computer. Everything's still fine. Thing is, there's a special detail about this method, which is kind of annoying at times. If we read it, it says returns the car value at the specified index, and in Java, whenever it talks about an index, the first position, so the first character in this case, so H, that's technically at index 0. You start counting from 0, and that's just common for programming in general. So if we want to put the index afterwards, like H would be at position 0, E would be at position 1. So just to show you that I'm not crazy. Let's put in 0 and see if we get an H. What did I? Oh, that's not allowed. You can't just have numbers there for no reason. All right. And we got an H, which is exactly what we wanted. So now if we want to get the 8th character, back to our original question, we want to put a 9 in, or no, we want to put a 7 in there. Because the thing at position 7 is our 8th character, which is kind of confusing, but it helps to think about it from just look at the simple example. Look at the first one. If our first character is at index 0, then you know that our second character is at index 1, our third character is at index 2. So you kind of pick up the pattern pretty easily. You just have to add 1 to it, to your index to get that position. And if you have the position you want, you have to subtract 1 to get the index. It makes sense why they count from 0. I know it doesn't seem like it makes sense now, but it does eventually. Trust me, I guess. So this car at is one of the methods. A lot of these are not that important. You won't use a lot of them, but some of them are very important. Let's find another important one. Oh, this one's important. Length. It returns the length of the string. So what do you think is going to happen if I replace car at with length? Let's see. Oh, it doesn't like it. So there are a few reasons that it doesn't like it. And Eclipse will tell us to them. We'll tell them to us. It will not tell us to them. That's impossible. But it really comes down to two things. First one is remember how I showed you that we have the parameter here? Well, length doesn't have any parameters there. So what we do is we still need those parentheses there, but we just leave them empty. So that gets rid of one of our errors. The other error is that we're asking for the length. We're not asking for a character, we're asking for a number, we're asking for an integer. So let's, instead of it being car 8th character, let's say int length. And now this line is okay. Now let's type in length there. And this length variable, just to clarify, is referring to this over here. It's not saying this. I'll change the names just to make it less confusing. That'll be my length. This will be my length. There we go. So ideally this should tell us the length of the string, like how many characters are in it. And let's see, 36. So that's nice that there are 36 characters in this string. And that includes white space, that includes everything. It's nice that there are 36 characters in the entire string. That's another pretty useful one. There are a lot of useful ones here. The last one, it's probably worth looking at, is equals. So on the left side, I should point out, it tells us what this method returns. So it should tell us the variable that we store its result in. What kind of variable do we want to make that? So the equals method returns a Boolean. So before we even look at what it does, let's change this to bool is equal, because we know it's going to store a Boolean, not bool. If this were C++, you'd write bool, but it's not. Output Boolean is equal. And now it's giving us an error because we still have str.length, which is an integer. So we're trying to set an int equal to a Boolean, and that's just not right, ever. And what does this method do? Here we go. It compares this string to the specified object. So what's an object? What does that mean? The only time you're ever going to really use this is with other strings. So if we wanted to see if two strings were equal, what we would do is, here we have our first string, string str. We'll leave that one. Actually, we'll make it a little simpler. We'll make it hello. and then we'll have another one called string other str equals goodbye. So if we want to see if these two are equal, we take the first one and we put the same way as before, str.length. And now in the parentheses, we want to put the second one, the one that we want to compare it to. So other str. And oh, I still have this as dot length. Remember, it's dot equals. And now let's print that out and see what we get. So what we should expect to happen is hello and goodbye are obviously different strings, right? They say different things, they have different characters. So this should be false. Let's go ahead and see if they are false. And it is false. In case if you couldn't tell, those are not the same exact string. Cool. Now what happens if they are the same? We get true, because now str and other str are the same thing. So you might be wondering, wait, why did I do str dot equals other str, not other str dot equals str? Well, if we did that, we would end up with the same exact thing. It would give us the same exact results, just the way that your computer handles it is a little different, but as far as we're concerned as programmers, they're the same thing. And if you want something that's always true, you could just put other str in both, because a string is always equal to itself. So it's completely useless to even have, but if you wanted that, there you go, you can do that. Those are all of the methods I'm going to cover right now, because we have some other stuff to get to. But I strongly recommend looking through all of these methods and looking at how they behave, maybe playing around with them a little bit. The ones that have these things with the brackets, the square brackets, like the car bracket, I wouldn't really worry too much about. Or if you don't understand what they say, if like locale 1, don't worry about it. But I would look through most of these and kind of guess what they do, and then play around with it a little bit on your own. You can only learn so much from just copying somebody. But anyway, that's it for